Good day, brothers and sisters, and I dare you not to press that button because it's not that many of you subscribers, so I know where you live. Don't make me come to your house and press it for you because you know, in this day and age of surveillance, it's very, very possible. Okay, this is a great show today at the Glen Zone. You're listening to Alex Sass Show with Glenn Herring and Melanie Renault, you know, our favorite guest here at the studio. Well, if you're tuning in, today is a great one. Remember that smoke, orange smoke in New York? And it was kind of all over Northeast, but somehow it was only orange in New York. And then, you know, remember a few weeks ago we did the show on ammonium nitrate, nitrate missing from the train going to California, like 60,000 pounds of it, 30 tons. And we called it, you know, like real life Breaking Bad scenario. Well, it is definitely Breaking Bad, and it's, you know, somebody's up to something, and we're going to show you some really cool stuff. And surprisingly, Justin did a surprise visit in Ukraine, and it seems like he's running for the prime minister position there in light of Mr. Johnston stepping down from the, you know, from China collusion investigation committee. And looks like it's going to be an inquiry. There's a lot of things like George Soros or Gergis Short stepping down, passing the reins of evil to his son. And well, there's other things to touch upon. And without further ado, let me bring up our guest. What's up? Well, guest co-hosts. What's up, Glenn? What's up, Mel?
How you doing, Mel?
I'm good. How are you, Glenn?
Good. Burn, baby, burn. My heart's on fire. All the fires in Canada and how it's affecting big cities in America with all this orange smoke.
Yeah, well, somebody posted this picture. I don't know if you guys you can see it on your screen. One of the socials, and they compared the New York scene to the Blade Runner in 2049. You know, more of a predictive programming. But, you know, all jokes aside, let's look at some of the evidence that is placed, you know, like you see it all over the social media. And I think Glenn and Mel, you can back me up if you can. The difference now, like, remember Chernobyl happened in, 1986? And Soviets were able to cover it for a few days, maybe even before, you know, European and other countries started to pick it up via just like, you know, radiation fallout at that point. Nowadays, because we are all exposed to social media and everybody has a camera and basically broadcasting device in the hand, we can look at things like this, like Orange, New York. Like, does that seem real to me or to you? Look at it. It's 11:30 a.m. It's smoky, but by 2 p.m. it's orangey. Mm-hmm. And if you say, well, this, you know, and they kind of blamed Quebec for this kind of stuff. But if you remember, I don't have a video of Quebec here, but this is what smoke like look in Ottawa. I mean, it doesn't look the same color, does it?
No, not at all. Not so orange.
Not so orange, right? Remember, though, okay, and this is the video from Alberta.
That's a forest fire passing by to the south of the homestead here. It's burning down in that direction somewhere, southwest. That's where it's burning. Suddenly came up in a giant plume today, just for no apparent reason whatsoever. Suddenly there was a giant plume of smoke. You know, that's not how fires start, eh? Like, if someone throws a cigarette, you know, there'll be a little fire and then you'll see the smoke and then smoke will rise and people will go and look. A giant plume, like a mushroom cloud. Like someone set off a nuke. Like, that's what it looked like. It was that big. I mean...
Well, and the reason why I played this video, because actually I've been contacted by some sources and they say, look, there's some shenanigans going on. What if the smoke is to cover some event that happened in Canada? But what if it didn't? What if it's some event that's happening south of the border, like New York, New Jersey? And we'll explain on that more. But this video does prove that there was some shenanigans. And again, like if you look at the picture, we right there in the red square, you see a whole bunch of shenanigans going on. This is the fires that started in Quebec all at the same time. And I have a video for that. if you bear with me. Mel, what's your theory on this?
I don't know exactly what's going on, but I do feel like there's really something super sketchy going on. Like, it just seems very random. I've seen a lot of different information as well. And that, all the fires started at the same time. And then, everything went to the States. I mean, Quebec, in Montreal, we barely had any of the smoke. Like, there was like one day where it was a bit smoky and you could smell the fire, but then it was gone. And then everything went down to New York, and New York being one of the biggest city around, like, it's just a bit odd that everything just went straight over there. And they're blaming Canada, which is another pre-programming. Remember that song Blame Canada from South Park, right? That's an old one.
I dare you to sing it.
Maybe not.
Blame Canada.
Blame Canada.
Oh, you're a lot better than I am.
But yeah, so it's just a weird situation that we have going on right now, and then it's pushing the whole idea of like, oh, you better stay inside. And then I've seen way more people wearing masks again now for the smoke, and it's like another fear factor. It's another like fear factor that's also promoting and helping push the propaganda of climate change, because of course it's climate change's fault. Like, it's not normal that we have fire at this time of the year. Usually it's later on in the summer. So people are freaking out. Keeps us in our fears, right?
Yeah, well, let's watch this video really quick. This is a little bit better copy than the video we played on the last one. This is,
it is Zoom Earth, but it is absolutely right. So this is June 2nd that I am showing you. June 2nd at 8:10 a.m. And it goes up. I'm going to click up every 10 minutes images. This is Quebec area. As you can see, there is a small amount of smoke right in this area of Quebec, and it just, boom, starts. So we're at 8:40 a.m., 8:50, 9 a.m., 9:20, 9:30, 9:40, 9:50. You have some starting down here, 10 a.m. One erupts.
Long story short, I just fast forwarded a bit.
Down here.
You can see the fire starting everywhere at the same time.
Southern Quebec, 12 a.m., 12 p.m., I'm sorry. This is an attack. Now we're at 1:30 p.m. Over here.
And they're not even close to each other or anything
Over
like that
here.
either,
So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7,
A
8,
whole bunch of down south.
9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, and you've got more little blips.
Glenn, how do you explain that?
Well, done purposely to cover up. We're going into the second phase of the carbon tax. We said it a long time ago. They're going to find a way to tax the air that you breathe, and they're going to do it indirectly through the taxing the big corporations who will pass the cost increase on to the population. And this happens at the same time as Trudeau, he takes off to Ukraine. It seems like we don't have enough money in Canada here for our firefighters. But he has enough money to give Ukraine $500 million. All of a sudden, he shows up over there with Mr. Zelensky.
They had this. Remember this? Well, you guys watched this at all? They brought in African firefighters from South Africa. Not that it's okay. We are thankful, but we just watched this video in a previous, forest fire episode where a lot of the retired people that actually know the woods, they know the topography, they know how to fight it, they understand the integrative differences of geological and the whole. What are they called the woods, Mal?
The woods.
Boreal forest.
Yeah, boreal
yeah.
forest. Yeah. They understand how to fight this,
The
but
land,
yet,
yeah.
and they don't have money for firefighters, but they bring those.
Not only that, big guy, but we were told here that the unions offered up a whole bunch of firefighters around the Montreal
I heard about
region
that, and
to
they
go up there,
refused.
and they told them no, we
Yeah.
don't need you, but
Yeah.
because they got the contingent coming from South Africa.
Like that seems really far to me.
Well,
Like to
it's
come
not-
all the way from South Africa.
The explanation
like,
is those people don't care and they wouldn't know.
they wouldn't know the difference. Yeah,
They wouldn't know the
people-
difference, and also they wouldn't, even
Maybe.
if they did see some foul play, like, well, this is, they wouldn't care. They're here for a job. They're going to get paid in there. But people that actually reside here, they will call attention to it, like the firefighter we played in the last episode. And then you ask, well, how did they start fires all over Quebec? Well, maybe that's how. Like we have this
the
video.
bag burning.
And it started everywhere, like something like 250. That's how you start 250 fires simultaneously, by flying a helicopter through different locations and just spraying. And that's also like referring to this guy who we just watched. He's like, oh, it's a big mushroom cloud. If you drop the cigarette and it starts a little bit and then it just expands. And how does it become really big into like mushroom cloud? Well, that's how you just light the whole thing on fire.
Yeah, and I heard about something like, because they use sometimes the fire to stop the fire, like
Yes.
bag burn or whatever they call it.
Controlled burn.
Controlled burning. But apparently some firefighters were saying that like the footage that we saw with the helicopter made no sense in the way that it was being done, that it wasn't fire control with fire, basically.
Well, because the top of the trees fire, from what I understand, what I know, like the top tree fire, that's the one that you can't stop. The ground fire, they can't. But once it hits the tops, that's it. It's over.
Not only that, but a ground fire early in the season, it's not even the summer yet. It's still spring. And that's up in the north, so it takes longer for the snow to melt. And they had a lot of snow this year because they were saying that we were getting floods. Only 6 weeks ago, they were saying, watch out, the rivers, the stream, they're all high. And so they're still wet at the bottom level, but the top part is drier because that's the one that's open to the sun. So that's the part that they set the fires to.
Makes sense.
Well, remember this train that disappeared, right? 60,000 pounds of explosive chemical lost. And now notice the language that they use. They use the language of explosive. So they steered you in the wrong direction. They're like, oh, and we actually said, stay away from the big cities. Well, you probably should do it all the time anyway. But stay away from the big cities with we weren't calling for a terrorist attack in the new Oklahoma building, or anything like this. But what we're referring to, this is what usually used as explosive, because they actually directed us in this to think that way in this article, and this is what why language is important, and this is the steer you to think certain way, and this is a prime example of that. But I'm gonna show you guys a video, and this is the truck I think filmed in New Jersey.
Can you imagine they're trying to get away with saying that 30 tons of this highly flammable material
It's just lost.
leaked out of a train onto the tracks the whole way? And people are supposed to believe that.
And where's the evidence of that?
There it is.
So what this video is referring, brothers and sisters, so the rain that happened shortly after the yellow smoke was able to bring down whatever that substance was in the air. And they came out sort of like this white, and I'll play this video again.
Yeah, it's weird, though.
But what is this shit on the ground? That's not solid, bro.
And that's what I mean, brothers and sisters. You have the power of broadcasting studio in your hand all the time. You can put it on your Facebooks, Instagrams, Pedograms, or whatever they are, and Twitters, and then we'll, shows like us will help you connect the dots. Remember the 60,000 pounds that were missing, 30 tons? Let's watch this video. This is an amazing video. We need investigative journalists like this lady. But let's listen to her show.
So obviously then my mind went immediately to the 60,000 pounds of ammonium nitrate that's still missing somewhere. All right, so here's where it gets good. I Google what happens to ammonium nitrate whenever it interacts with water. It becomes that white crystallized powder that you just saw, kind of like you saw on that TikTok. Then I remember that I saw this tweet yesterday. Ammonium nitrate, when exposed to sunlight, oxidizes and creates nitric acid, which then becomes an orange cloud. What were they calling New York City yesterday? Oh, that's right. An orange cloud. So now I need more information beyond Google Images. So I find this official ammonium nitrate safety guide. This is the main points of it right here. How and when ammonium nitrate turns dangerous. It poses a major threat because it's an oxidizer, which means it's an oxygen-rich compound that accelerates fires and explosions. Destabilizing ammonium nitrate, making it self-reactive and prone to releasing flammable and ignitable gases. Then I go over to what makes it the most dangerous, and what do you know? It being confined in containers is a big no. Well, then I think about it and I'm like, okay, well, the only way that it was confined was in a container because it went missing from a train. So, there we have it. The last thing I want to say is that Quebec, which they say is what's causing all this.
Yeah, and that's the point she's making. She's making is it's 517 miles away from New York City, but nowhere along the path of that smoke, supposed smoke, we saw that orange. Like here in Montreal, I didn't see it to be orange.
Got to blow from the north to the south, and it didn't pass through here, so I don't know how it got there. So it didn't the normal way.
Like we did get some rain that they didn't get in some other places, which probably in a way would help with not getting as much smoke. But it just was weird to me that, yeah, like how did it all go down to New York? Also, they'll tell you it's like a meteo pattern and the winds blow this way. And so obviously it skipped Montreal.
Quebec always gets blamed for everything.
Yeah.
And by the way, big guy, how you edit these shows, you should be a private investigator.
Well, how do you know I'm not? How do you know I'm not? Yeah, brothers and sisters, if you want me to investigate, no, I'm not doing any of that. There's another conspiracy theory. Let's.
Okay, guys. So I'm at the gym this morning, sitting in the sauna. I hear this girl talking about how she left New York. And of all people, I'm like, of course. I'm like, why? What's going on? Oh, what do you do for work? She works for the Department of Defense. So, okay, your girl's like, okay, tell me all the things. So when all of this went down with the fires up in Canada, she was told about this actually days and days before it happened. And she left New York because supposedly this was supposed to shut down the city for 2 weeks. They didn't want to make it too out of control, but at the same time, they wanted to make an impact so we can blame it on climate change and then, of course, go towards like the digital currency, the 15-minute cities. And at the end of the day, she's like, it's all about overpopulation, which...
Glenn, that's what you said.
Yeah, basically, but she says it a little more eloquently. But yeah, I tell it like it is, champ. This is all fake, phony, and false. And people should wake up and realize it, and you're going to have to protect yourself. But wearing a mask, I don't think is going to work.
Well, they told you it's not going to work.
Just like it did at the beginning of the scamdemic.
Yeah, it's a different type of mask wearing, but I thought it was interesting to see everybody starting to wear a mask again and stay home and.
They advised against it. We played we actually showed in a previous show that they advised against wearing a mask. I have some other interesting, funny videos which are not really funny. Let's watch this. It's a video of like a plane being filmed from another plane leaving the black trail, a supposedly contrail.
Oh yeah, good old chemtrails.
I don't know what's that about, Mel.
Well, that looks bad.
But it looks black.
Yeah,
it doesn't
that's
look
really dark.
like contrail should be white, right?
Yeah, usually they're white. Yeah. Ooh, that looks really bad.
Maybe it's CGI.
Of course.
Right. And what the interesting part in the second part of this video, you see another plane flying over it with a white smoke to cover the black smoke. I've never seen anything like this. Apparently, apparently that's the new thing. Like, see right there. See, there's a black line in the sky.
Yeah, going over the. Oh wow, that's crazy.
If you had to, and the thing is, like, I can't give you my guesstimate on what this is. I really be just doing that, just guessing. This is not I'm not playing any guessing game. I just don't know how to explain it. Maybe brothers and sisters, you know what this is about. I don't know. You can explain, maybe not. Glenn, and another interesting part about all this. I'm glad you brought up the carbon tax and the second round of this, and where's Justin to be found when all this is happening?
Not only the carbon tax, big guy, but also the switching of the rapporteur for the inquiry into the Chinese interference into the elections. And also, you had they passed another budget here in Canada, and Canada is spending more and more, going to be going more and more into debt to try and keep this economy from dying out, which is going to create more inflation, which is going to force the Central Bank of Canada to keep raising interest rates, which is going to bankrupt a lot of people with their so-called assets that they held, where they still had money outstanding against this asset called their house.
Mm-hmm.
No, look at this dude. He's another photo op. But why did he go? Okay, so in light of all this, we just covered the firefighting challenges that we have. That we have to spend a whole bunch of money to bring the 500. How many fighters they brought from South Africa and all that stuff. And we definitely we're in the middle of a disaster, right? And he goes to Ukraine to do what? Give him $500 million worth of what? Stuff that we can use here specifically. Yeah. Do you hear what Pierre Poilievre had to say about this?
Spending too much on Ukraine right now, in your opinion?
I think we need to get results for our money, and we support an end to Russia's illegal and unjustified invasion. What the problem with this government is they it's not that they don't spend enough, it's that they don't achieve enough results for the spending they do. They spend too much on back office bureaucracy and not enough on frontline military equipment.
That's the part that makes me nervous about Pierre Poilievre.
Yeah, champ, he's just telling you that Trudeau has a way of printing money, and it's still warm right off the press, and he's giving it away to Zelensky in Ukraine, when Canadians are going to need this money more now than ever.
Mm-hmm.
What else he's saying? This is just another shenanigans. Like, if he really meant to protect Ukraine, he would do something useful with that money and give them what they needed for it. Other than that, he's just redistributing our wealth and the money being laundered for whatever reasons. That's what really he's saying. But but there's not enough photo apps for our guy.
Look at that, two actors together.
Oh yeah. No. It's the director and the actor, the drama teacher.
Is this the Golden Globe or the Oscars?
Hams.
Maybe?
Two hams, a tall ham and a shorter ham.
That was pretty funny. Both of you on fire today. Oh, look at them hugging. That's the LGBTQ one.
Beautiful.
That's the LGBTQ version. See, he has a little rainbow flag on his shoulder.
Lovers in the night,
but
exchanging hugs.
Oh, you could sing too, Glenn.
Nasty.
I didn't know that about
Nasty. You never see Trump doing something like that. Eh?
Okay, but you know what you see Trudeau do? You know what this is? It reminds me of that picture that we just saw earlier. In 2016, Justin Trudeau happily received a photo gift from Beijing's ambassador to Canada of his father's shaking hands with Mao Zedong.
Wow.
How many people did Mao Zedong kill? 60 million? When they did their cultural cleansing? Way more than Hitler and Stalin combined. And that's the man he should,
Well, that would be his hero, right? Because they want to get rid of the population, so that's kind of what they're aiming for. But
you're putting a puzzle together.
Oh.
Well, he did say.
And is that even his dad? That's another question.
Yeah, where were they shaking hands? In Cuba?
2016 could have been, man. Who knows? That's before all that stuff went down. But again, before we move on to any other stories, I'm just gonna remind you and show you this picture again. So this is what smoke looks like on the left when it's from the forest fire, and on the right, this is what ammonium nitrate burning looks like. Right. So.
What is going on?
What is going on, Glenn?
Plain as day, champ. Like I said, what a picture to put up there. So it's right there in front of your eyes, people.
Yeah,
if you can't discern this.
So it's white, gray, black versus straight up orange, red, So there's a difference. Well, what else do we have in the news today? Specifically with Johnston, I mean, he's the force to be reckoned with. He went and did the speech at the parliament in Ukraine. That was his photo op, and the Ukrainians really, really, really love him. And I think that's the only place where he can get accolades of any kind. He's like, yeah, bring us more money, Justin.
Yeah, you can't walk around in Canada.
He cannot
sure.
do that in Canada, but he's actually probably safer right now in Ukraine, even at the front lines, than he is in Canada walking free. Can Justin walk without any?
No way. No, I know some guys who they work for the RCMP and they were hired specifically for security for Justin Trudeau, and they said, "Oh no, he's on guard all the time when he's walking around, and long after he steps down, or if Canadians get together and finally vote this turkey out." Okay, and we do Canada justice again? No, just us, our turn, not this guy's turn.
So the funny part about all this, that CBC, that's the, what do we call it? The
Canadian Broadcasting?
No, it's the government press release.
True.
Yeah,
so
the prostitutes. They're paid by the government to push out propaganda.
Yeah, so they came out with this piece just in time when Justin went in to Ukraine to give him more money to justify the counteroffensive. We'll watch a little bit of this. I don't want to play the whole thing, but we'll watch a little bit of it.
Claiming to have retaken a town called
Well, basically, what's happening is they claiming that they are that Ukraine's counteroffensive is actually effective, and they have retaken like 2 villages or something like this.
Yeah, big deal. A couple of villages. Meanwhile, they're losing all their tanks.
According to a local commander.
Yeah, that's
the
true.
Kremlin also says
and they're Bradley,
look where I conveniently press pause. Do you see what's on the side of the tank? That reminds you of anything? That's that cross. What else who else used crosses during World War II? Oh, CBC, you're letting me down with this one.
Ukraine's counteroffensive has begun, and that this is what Russian air power is doing to the tanks Western nations are giving to Ukraine. It also released these images of what it says is a Russian ship repelling a Ukrainian unmanned boat attack in the Black Sea. Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky is deliberately vague about counterattacks. There are counteroffensive moves and defensive moves, he's saying, and I'm not going to comment on any of them. That was at a press conference with Canada's Prime Minister on Saturday. Justin Trudeau unveiling another military aid package for Ukraine and touring a mental...
Okay, the thing is, here's my problem with this. Unveiling. One actor says, I cannot comment on counteroffensive, so I can't even tell you what you're spending money on.
Yeah.
And Justin does the surprise visit without his taxpayers even being aware. Yes.
Oh, she's there too.
Well, Chrystia Freeland, the finance minister, making sure that the money is going right there, and she can bring some back in her own briefcase.
Like how happy she is.
Well, she has a conflict of interest. She's of Ukrainian background, and she's her grandmother was taking a picture with like Hitler or Eichmann, with one of them, right?
Mental health facility for veterans with Ukraine's First Lady, Olena Zelenska. He also spoke to Ukrainian MPs.
The world cannot overstate the existential importance of your fight.
That's the only place he gets applause like that, that's for sure.
Mel, what do you think is the existential part of the fight in Ukrainian war? Is it the protection of Ukrainian democracy, the protection of Western way of life and Western democracy, the protection of LGBTQ rights in Ukraine? Because obviously, if Russia takes over, there's no more LGBTQ rights in Ukraine. What do you think the existential part is, Glenn?
I don't know, champ, but you're showing everything shot by shot. You're showing everything that people should be able to look and see for themselves. But I must quote, the eyes are useless when the mind is blind. Okay, so that's willfully blinding yourself to the truth to try and feel comfortable. That's you're doing yourself a disservice like that, brother. And sister.
And then going with that quote, you could also say that real eyes realize real lies.
Oh, so clever.
Right.
So clever. Well, what's Devin Johnston doing, resigning as a special rapporteur on foreign interference?
Maybe he's going to get another job with the World Economic Forum, because often when you put in his name, you see the World Economic Forum show up beside his name. So,
Well, isn't it similar to what Justin just did? Like he's going to Ukraine, and he somehow so is Christian Freeland. Maybe somehow they volunteering to get some kind of NATO UN position or some kind of position in European Union, unelected official of sort. But what's the significance of this, right? Was this one of the Justin Trudeau's bodies as well, Glenn?
yeah, but he's done. That's your classic pulling a turtle move, because he knows he's history, and that wasn't going to go too well. It wasn't going well with the Canadian people, and it was being exposed. No matter how the media was trying to keep that out, it was still, people didn't feel comfortable with that. But we're going to see who the next one comes in, maybe a judge or something. It would be nice to have a public inquiry, because the politicians, they work for us. We're the public. We want to know where our money's going and who's influencing our elections. True. Okay? So it should be a public inquiry for we the people.
Well, it says here that David Johnston tells by Prime Minister Justin Trudeau back in March with looking into allegations that China tried to meddle in the past two federal elections, says he has decided to step down from that role. In resignation letter sent to Trudeau, Johnston said his role has become too muddled in the political controversy for him to continue. When I undertook the task of independent, was he ever independent? Special reporter on foreign interference. My objective was to help build trust in our democratic institution, the former Governor General wrote. I have concluded that given the high partisan atmosphere around my appointment and work, my leadership has had the opposite effect.
Leadership. Really? What an overword.
He realized we were in China though, and he's like, oh, well, there you go.
No, I think he made his decision when he watched a few of our segments on the Alex Saz show, and he says, okay, I better turtle while I can still get out of here.
In light of all this, you know what Canada does? Canada gets mad that Johnston quits, and they take the Russian cargo plane.
Another one. I think that's the second one,
No,
right?
that's the first one. I think they were
First one in
just. I
Canada?
think they were just talking about it the first time, and now they actually finally decided, like, okay, let's just take it and give it to Ukraine.
That's an act of war. You know that.
Well, that's what I'm saying, like escalating. Okay, so even if it's, let's say it's an economic decision, let's say, well, we're doing this. Let's say if there's some kind of justification, it's not, but let's say if there's a justification, what do you think? Do you think Russia can do more harm to Canada, or Canada just doesn't care at all?
Mr. Putin, if you're listening, Canadian people, they're not for this, okay? So the Canadian people are innocent. Please don't declare war on Canada. But if Trudeau were to somehow, I don't know, choke on something, or you know, like,
well, it's a business bad decision. It's just so stupid. We're running out of money. You know how much the guy was paying? He was paying the guy who owns the plane. They were paying like 67 cents a minute for parking a plane at the airport. So it's just ka-ching, ka-ching,
Wow.
ka-ching, ka-ching every few minutes, you know? And this guy, they decided to, like, the only cash cow that airport had, you know, they're trying to get rid of it. Just really bad political and economical decisions. And you're right, it's like a rat squeezed against in a corner, and what else is happening? By the way, Canada also sanctioned ex-Ukraine president. So it's just... Okay, Justin, instead of doing all this crazy stuff, resolve your internal affairs.
Yeah, focus on your own country.
Focus on your own countries. Why? How's the sanctions against the ex-Ukrainian?
That was one who was democratically elected.
Yes.
Is that Med?
No, Yanukovych.
Yanukovych, yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And his son Alexander to its sanction list on Saturday, accusing them being connected to the theft of Ukrainian cultural objects and the Kremlin's efforts to Russify Ukrainian culture.
How does Canada sanction? Like, we can't weaponize the Canadian dollar. It's the U.S. dollar where they sanction people around the world, and they keep them out of the American-controlled banking system of the world.
Well, it's strictly symbolic. That's the greatest point that you've made right now. Like everything that Canada done, including giving $500 million of taxpayer money. It's a symbolic gesture because it's not going to do anything, and that's why CBC had to try really, really, really hard to justify. It's like, look, they took 3 villages. By the way, they even said in the report, unconfirmed report. So we don't actually know, but they did show pictures of a whole bunch of tanks being blown up by the Russian.
Well, let's keep the propaganda and keep the story going.
But the story gets out on the other end, where more than 10 NATO states don't support Ukrainians be
and growing. That's 10 of the NATO states right now. And the other 21 they do support, but I think that support is diminishing because the people are rebelling in those countries against their government support for Ukraine. These are people in any country is all the same. They don't want war. They don't want problems. They want peace, and they want a nice way of living, a nice middle class.
Did you see, do you know what happened to McDonald's when the whole thing started? McDonald's left, right? Russia. And apparently, and again, we can't confirm this, brothers and sisters. We're not on the ground, and I cannot check the financial statements of the new Russian McDonald's, because it's no longer McDonald's. It's called Вкусная точка. It means a tasty, it's period, or whatever. So then, or tasty and period, right? So I don't know if it's the most clever marketing name, but basically they took exact same name menu and they just changed the names of the burgers and the sandwiches and everything else, and now they no longer have to pay the corporate franchise fee back to the United States, and they're still making exact same money, actually more, and the business is doing better. So
I mean, don't eat fast food, but smart move.
By the way, McDonald's in Russia is apparently better because they're using all local ingredients, and Putin is very much against all the GMO stuff and everything else. So probably you get a better.
McDonald's.
You probably. I don't know if it is or not. I can't claim it. I don't eat that kind of stuff. Glenn, you eat that kind of stuff. Tell me about it.
Oh yeah, every day. I wouldn't know the difference if it came up and bit me on the ass.
Glenn, close the roundup with some of the stuff that on the news that you want to mention.
Silvio Berlusconi passed away today. He was the leader of Italy for a long time, and he was also supposedly associated with the globalists. So every man has his day, and even if it's a bad day, and he's gone. What else? George Soros, 92 years old. He's passing the reins of a $25 billion empire to his son, Alexander Soros.
Does it mean he doesn't have much to go? Is that the case? Is that the guess?
Well, I don't know. We'll see. But we'll see what Mr. Alexander do if he changes course, because a lot of this money is used to control elections in other countries. In other words, he is the biggest donator to the democratic cause in America, and he is the financier behind this whole wokeism mentality. They call it woke. I say, you know what? Time to go back to sleep. Don't wake up for a while.
Mel, you want to mention something?
No.
Okay.
And also, she was the leader of Scotland for a while, Nicola Sturgeon. She was arrested. Her husband was arrested with the finance minister in April, and now she was arrested because it's going an ongoing investigation into where about $1 million of Canadian donation, a dollar value of donations went in, and they're following the paper trail, and they don't like what they see.
Well, the reason they're following the paper trail because it didn't go where it was supposed to go. And I don't mean like, it was supposed to go. No. It didn't go because somebody didn't get their share. And so it is. Yeah.
Honduras. They opened an embassy in China after cutting their ties with Taiwan.
Interesting. We did cover it a few weeks ago, remember? And we'll bring Ramon back to help us to cover that story. Brothers and sisters, continue to discern, listen, don't drink the water, or don't inhale the smoke, the orange smoke especially. Don't eat yellow snow, and other tips that we can do. Go to the gym, be kind, share love and peace, be decent, be righteous, read the Bible, eat well, sleep well, go if you're hungry. Whatever you got to do, be the best person you can be in your family, in your community, and continue to share love. Thank you for this wonderful show, guys, once again. We'll see you on the next one.